So last night I had a chance to see Wicked, directed by Jon M. Chu, starring Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, amongst other people, telling us the story of how the Wicked Witch of the West came to be in The Wizard of Oz, her connection with Glinda, the Witch of the North, and how she was experiencing certain things that led her down her dark path, based off of a musical of the same name from Broadway from over 20 years ago. At first, I'll admit I had no interest in seeing this. I'm not really into musicals as much. I know it's probably not something that's unheard of on this platform. There are some that I really like, such as Sound of Music, Grease. That's an easy choice, but hey, I recognize its importance. As far as its connection to other properties of entertainment, I've never seen the musical Wicked. I'd seen posters of it online, and also whenever I take a trip to New York City, I would see the posters for it on buses, on the sides of buildings, or in Times Square. But I have heard a few things about it. When I saw the trailer for it, I thought, oh, well, I guess that was bound to happen. And of course, with the original film, The Wizard of Oz from 1939, how could you not like that movie? Maybe the most influential film in cinematic history. Almost a century later, that movie still holds up, and it's probably the most referenced film in every single area of life, or every piece of entertainment. Well, not all pieces of entertainment, but it's the most referenced in all of pop culture, even compared to some other movies out there, but I'll save that for another time. The fact that they're still making pieces of entertainment based off of that original film goes to show you just how culturally significant that is. Now, as for Wicked, when I saw certain reviews, I was kind of taken aback by the positive reception that it was getting. And even my mom and my sister went to see it. Based on what they were telling me, I said, okay, now I have to see this for myself. I have to admit, I was quite surprised. The bond between Glinda and Elphaba is it is the most enthralling part of this whole thing. It really is the glue that holds everything together. Glinda being the prissy and aloof young girl that thinks she's the best thing in the world when she's really not. Kind of obnoxious at first on my end, but after a while I was able to roll with it. I realized that's part of the character, but admittedly there were a few times where I said, honey, please, can you just talk like you got a shred of intelligence up in that noggin of yours? Ariana Grande, I've never really listened to her music. From the way she sounds in here, it almost reminds me of Mariah Carey back in the 90s when she would hit those high-pitched notes. The way she was hitting certain notes, I thought, whoa, that sounds very similar to Mariah. And I was impressed with her acting ability. She really manages to encompass that character Glinda while also making it her own. And I do like seeing how her arc plays out. She starts off very prissy and self-absorbed, but thanks to her bond with Elphaba, she finally has the ability to empathize with other people. Well, mostly with Elphaba anyway. But Cynthia Erivo really seals the show here. In fact, every time she was in front of the camera, immediately I was locked in. Seeing her backstory play out and how she was rejected by other people due to her skin color being green, her father views her very negatively, and she has to take care of her sister who's confined to a wheelchair, and the only connection she's able to forge is with Michelle Yeoh's character, who is the principal or headmistress of the school that she goes to, and also with Glinda. If I had to pick a favorite song from the whole thing, it would probably be the one where she looks at this guy from afar who's dating Glinda. And no big specifics, but they do have a moment where they start to think that there might be some romantic connection there. But of course, with her skin color, none of it goes through because they know that it's going to be a very taboo subject in their class. But as she's watching him from afar, hanging with Glinda and her friends, I found it very, very touching, especially right here. But it wasn't until the school dance scene where Elphaba wears the hat for the first time that I was really able to get on board with the entire thing. Up until then, I thought, it's fine, it's okay. But when she puts that hat on and she starts to dance, and without any words spoken, they're able to understand each other on a personal level, that's when I said, okay, now you have my undivided attention. The musical numbers, I'm happy to say, are not obnoxious. They all fit the character's emotions in the right ways, and the way Jon M. Chu helms these scenes with the camera, it's a really great way to get us inside the characters' heads and understand their places in life. The production design too, and the whole world building of the Land of Oz, not since the Harry Potter franchise has a fictional world been this enthralling in a feature film, or maybe even something like the Star Wars universe. The design of the school, Shiz University, Munchkin Land, Emerald City with the train that goes right to it. I have a feeling that a lot of kids are going to be really enticed by this and want to explore that universe in particular, just like people do with the Star Wars and Harry Potter universes. There are some CGI green screen shots, but it all looks very seamless, and there's a good amount of practicality in here too, blending the two together. I mean, some shots, it doesn't look exactly great. But even then, for this type of budget that they have, I didn't really notice anything that stuck out like a sore thumb otherwise. The best part for me, though, is the third act, when they finally meet the wizard played by Jeff Goldblum, who's more or less just Jeff Goldblum in another movie. I got no problems with the guy. I've always liked him since Jurassic Park, but I didn't really see him as the wizard. I just saw him, yeah, this is just Jeff Goldblum doing his usual shtick. Maybe in the next film they could go a little deeper and show us a different side of him. But if you've seen the original film, we obviously know that he doesn't have wizard-like powers. He's a charlatan and he's a magician who uses these tricks in order to fool people into thinking that he's all-powerful. And I guess I do have to put in the spoiler warning in case you don't know how the story plays out. And the way Elphaba starts to go down further on her dark path is when she learns certain things that are happening with the animals in Oz. One of the teachers is a goat voiced by Peter Dinklage. Even as an animal, a Lannister always pays his debts. They're put down all by the humans or humanoid species in the land of Oz. And then when she sees the famous monkeys that turn into the flying monkeys, well, spoiler warning, she finds out that Oz is creating this enemy in the animals and that she feels a certain compassion for them and learns through a spell that she finds in a book that they have for her, she gives them the wings that they need to fly. Literally. And that's another thing. All those little details that they throw in there to explain why certain things are the way they are in the original film, like the poppies that she uses to put people to sleep. She uses that in the classroom when she has to save this one animal that's being held in a cage. And anytime those things popped up, it was like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood going, woo, oh. But in regards to its ending, I did like the sense of finality that it has, while also leaving certain things open. In particular with her sister, I think we all know where that's leading. She's going to become, if I'm not mistaken, the Wicked Witch of the East. And I get the sense that there's a few things about Oz that we don't know about the Wizard of Oz. I've heard some people suggest that he might be the father of Elphaba. If you've seen the full play, please don't tell me the details. I mean, they show her mother in the movie having an affair with somebody, and we don't see his face. Don't you find that kind of suspicious? And maybe Jonathan Bailey's character will come back and try to win over Elphaba. Again, if you've seen the musical, don't tell me how it ends. I want to see this for myself. I mean, we all know where eventually this goes, but all the other stuff in between I'd rather figure out on my own. As for downsides, like I said, up until the dance scene, I think the movie was kind of trugging along, building up a lot of the stuff that we need to know, which is fine with me because you have to do a lot of world building and introduction to anybody who's a newcomer to this story. The film is over 2.5 hours, and at times I did kind of feel its length. I feel like maybe they could have trimmed it down by a few minutes, maybe a little more, but on that note, I wouldn't even know which parts to cut out. For anyone who's going to bring their kids to the theater to see this, let them know that this is a long movie, so after a while they might get a little antsy. But I'm really pleased with how this film turned out, and I'm looking forward to see how they conclude this next year, and I wouldn't be shocked if this film does have some Oscar consideration. From a technical level, cinematography, VFX, and so on, that wouldn't surprise me. Acting-wise, it's possible. I could see Cynthia Erivo getting some kind of nomination if it were to happen. Golden Globe, Academy Award, doesn't matter. So those are my thoughts on Wicked. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to tell me what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.